Right, so it's May 2012 and well, it's AdMaths. Let's get started. Right now, there are a few topics that have been removed because they're no longer on the syllabus. For example, functions. It's no longer on the AdMaths syllabus. That's on the regular boring maths syllabus. So anything to do with functions, I have removed it. So this is your first question today. It's a question on, well, remainder and factor theorem. Now, while you all try the question, I'm going to give you all little hints in the little blue box, but you all get started and hopefully the hints will help out a little bit. So good luck, guys. Right, and don't forget to send your answers on the chat, right? Cater about 5 minutes for each question. Right, so one person has an answer already. Remember, factors and solutions are not the same. Only solutions will equate the expression to 0. Right, so still have some time, about 3.5 minutes. All right, so a lot of people are getting the answer to be equal to 20. A few people said 3, but let's see what the answer is. Now, remember I said factors and solutions are different. So let's see. What we need to do is use the factor to get the solution. So the examiner told us the factor itself was x plus 2. Whenever we're trying to get the solution to the expression, well, to the polynomial, we have to take the factor and always put it equal to 0, always. And then we solve for x. So this one to solve for x is very, very simple. We throw across positive 2, we get minus 2. Hence, the solution is x is equal to 2. So what does the solution do? Well, whenever we substitute the solution, right? If it's a true solution that came from a true factor, the whole expression will boil down to 0. So let's go and replace all the x's with our solution, which happens to be 2. So you have to show the examiner that you threw away all the x's and you replaced it with 2. And if it's a true solution, the whole thing will boil down to 0. So now all we have to do is solve for a. Now I think I know the mistake some people made. Some people said 2 multiply by 2 and then they cubed it. how it works, we have to do the brackets first. I think we should cube this 2 first. 2 to the power 3 is 8, and then multiply it by the 2 waiting on the outside. It's a very common mistake made in the exam. So, oh, sorry, small mistake. First mistakes for the day. Well, when you throw across positive 2, you're getting -2. So x is -2. So my mistake, guys. We're supposed to replace the x's with -2. I don't know how I made such a silly mistake. -2 to the power 3 is -8. -8 by 2 is -16. -2 squared is +4. +4 by -3 is -12. -4 multiplied by -2 is +8. And all we have to do now is solve for a, right? So 16 minus -12 plus 8. And we're going to get -20 plus a is equal to 0. We can more than solve for a here. You throw across -20, you're going to get what? +20. So for the people who got a as 20, congratulations. And for those who did not get the answer of 20, let me know in the chat that you saw your answer at least. All right, so here we have another equation to solve. Obviously, your job is to solve for x. Okay. Good luck. Of course, I will be putting a hint in the blue box in a little while. Right, so I hope that those 2 hints will actually, give you a jump start on the question. And just to let you know, this question is going to boil down to a quadratic, and I have a good feeling after using the quadratic, I'm going to have to use logs to complete the question. That's my feeling on it. All right, so let's see if my hints helped a little bit, at least, okay? One second. All right, so the first thing we want to do, right? This 2x minus 9, I don't like how that you have that 3 minus 2x. Like I said, we need to throw that underneath. And if we want, well, we can put this equal to 8. My advice is, you see how this 3 on 2x is underneath now? I think we need to get rid of it. And remember the concept of whatever you do to one side of an equal sign, you can do anything in the world, just make sure and do it to the other side. So if I decide to multiply everyone on this side by 3 to the power 2x, now if I multiply him by 3 to the power 2x, I also have to multiply him by 3 to the power 2x. And if I multiply everybody on that side by 3 to the power 2x, well, bet all your money, you have to multiply this side by 3 to the power 2x. Now, the reason for doing that is you will notice that when you multiply both sides by 3 to the power 2x, the 3 to the power 2x and this 3 to the power 2x, the one on top and the one underneath, cancel out, which is great, right? But we end up with a small little problem here. 3 to the power 2x multiplied by another 3 to the power 2x is 2x, and the whole thing goes in brackets squared. I know it looks a little weird, but we all know when we multiply two same things, we're going to get a square. Leave it like that, right? I know if you wanted to use your math skills to simplify it, whenever you have two powers separated by brackets, you can multiply the two powers and put 3 to the power 4x. But I don't want you to do that, right? I don't want you to do that at all. On this side, we have -9, and on this side, we have 8, well, multiplied by 3 to the power 2x. Now, I know some people will be tempted to multiply the 8 by the 3 to get 24, but you cannot do that because the 3 is being held hostage by the 2x. It belongs to the power 2x, so you have to leave it like that. Anybody multiplied it by mistake to get 24? I'm sure there's at least one person did that. 8 by 3 and they put 24 by mistake. All right. Now, what we're going to do now, we're going to throw everyone on the same side because believe it or not, this is going to boil down to a quadratic. So we have 2x squared, throw across the 8, you'll get -8. You can probably put this as 3 to the power 2x in brackets. So it will look a little bit neater. -9 is equal to 0. Here's what you want to do. I can have a little space here. We're going to let's choose any letter in the world except for x. I'm going to choose the letter M because my teacher used to choose M when I was in school. We're going to let M be equal to 3 to the power 2x. So that means when we go to that equation, wherever we see a 3 to the power 2x, we can throw it away and replace it with M. Look at this here. And we could throw him away and replace it with M, but it have this annoying squared waiting here. Over here, we have 8. And what do we have in the brackets? 3 to the power 2x. Replace that with M. -9 is equal to 0. Do you all see the quadratic now? We have a quadratic, but instead of the letter x, we have the letter m. So when we solve that quadratic, we will be solving for the letter m. So a is how much? The number touching m squared. So a is 1, b is -8, and c is -9. Do you all think you all can throw those values into the quadratic formula and get your two values for m? See if you can do that for me at least. Well, for those who were a little bit lost. Let's substitute in some values here. Now I already have the quadratic formula. We know b is -8. So we have -8 here. A is 1, C is -9, and A is 1. All right, so remember when you square anything in the world, you will get a positive number. Remember when two minus signs touch over here, you're going to get a positive. So we're going to get +8 here. By now, everyone should be able to work out the part underneath the square root, but let me see what we get over there. We get 64 minus... How much of you all got 100 underneath the square root sign? That's before we square root it. I haven't square rooted it as yet. So when we square root 100, we're going to get 10. And 2 multiplied by 1 is, well, 2. So you all know what to do from here, right? We're going to get 8 plus 10 divided by 2. Then we say 8 minus 10, and we divide it by 2. 8 plus 10 is 18 divided by 2 is 9. 8 minus 10, well, that's -2. Divided by 2 is -1. The two answers I got were 9 and -1. Now, the question isn't finished. We just solved for m. We got two values for m. Let me know when you're ready to move forward to complete the question. I just want to make sure you got those two answers. All right, so this is what we have so far. Our two answers for M are M is 9, and we also have M as -1. Now remember, M was 3 to the power 2x is equal to 9. So in both instances, we can replace the M with 3 to the power 2x. Right. And we have to try to solve these two equations. Now, I am going to just solve it using logs. To me, that's the easiest way to go. If we log both sides, now we're logging to the base 10. If we log one side, we have to log the other side. According to the logs rules, the power, we can throw it where? In front. So 2x log 10, 3 is equal to log 10, 9. All we have to do now is solve for x. You throw across the multiply, so you're going to get 2x is equal to log 9 divided by log 3. Let me type in that on my calculator. Log 9 divided by log 3, and I am getting 2. So I'm going to get 2x is equal to 2. That's when we work this out. Obviously, we solve for x. You throw across a multiply, we're going to get a divide. X is equal to 1. So for the people who got x as 1, that's one of your final answers. Let's do the other one the same way. We're going to log both sides. Log 3 to the power 2x is equal to log -1. I don't think we can log a negative number. Let's just test run that. Log -1, and this will give us an error. Hence, there's no solution to this part here. So there's only one final answer, and that is x is equal to 1, right? Some students told me they did it a slightly different way. And yes, there are a couple of different ways to do the same exact question, but I'm only going to do one today. If you do it your way and you got the same answer, you're going to get full marks as well in the exam. All right, so take down everything. Let me know when you're ready to move on. Let's move on to the next part. All right. Have fun with this one. I'm going to see if I could come up with some hints to help you here. All right, so good luck with that. The second hint, whenever you're logging something and the base and the big value is the same, you will always get 1. In other words, if I have log to the base 7 and I have a 7 here, I will get 1. Once both of them are the same, you will always get 1. And for the equation of a straight line, once you make y the subject, whoever is touching x is your gradient and everybody else is your y-intercept from basic, I guess, Form 3 or Form 4 maths. So let's move forward and see how we could use those things to help us, right? So for part 1, let's see. Express, well, I think this one, we're going to have to log both sides. So we have x to the power 3 is equal to 10x minus, to the power x minus 3, sorry. And we're going to log both sides. So if I log this side, I have to log the other side. Now, when we're logging both sides, we could choose any base in the world. If I want to choose something crazy like 7, like log to the base 7, you're allowed to do that. You just have to make sure and do it to the other side as well. Now, while you have the freedom of choosing any base in the world, Why would you choose something as crazy as 7? First of all, whenever you press the log button on your calculator, by default, the base is going to be 10. So you want to choose something for at least your calculator can handle. Also, if I am seeing a big 10 over here, won't it make more sense for me to choose a base 10? Because if I do that, at least I know when log 10 and big 10 meet, that could simplify to 1. And of course, that will help me in the long run. So in other words, I'm asking you to choose wisely when you're choosing the base. Whenever you have a power, the power could jump in front. So you're going to get x log 10x, right? Now, before this boils down to 1, you have to get rid of the power first. So we're going to throw him in front. Now, the whole power goes. I'm going to write it a little bit wrong. X minus 3 log 10. Yeah, I made a small mistake. Sorry about this, guys. The 3 here, oh God, I don't know why I'm making so much mistakes today. The 3 goes over here, not X. Don't know what I'm thinking. I did something slightly wrong here that could cause a lot of problems later on in the question. You see how I threw the X minus 3 in front? Please make sure and put the brackets because this whole thing is going in front of the log 10. Those brackets could make the world of a difference in a more complex question. Right, so let's move on here. This portion, we know it's going to boil down to 1, and anything multiplied by 1 is itself. So you get x minus 3 on this side. We don't need the brackets anymore. Over here, these 3's are multiplied. I could throw it across and get a divide. And now I have log 10x is equal to that. Great. Now, we're going to put it in this form. We already got log 10x on one side. I think we need to separate the top from this denominator. What does a big divide by 3 mean? Doesn't this mean that everybody on top gets divided by 3? So you're going to get x on 3 minus 3 also divided by 3. But we know 3 divided by 3 is 1. You all are math students, right? X divided by 3 is the same exact thing as 1/3 x. We know the x really belongs on top. All right. So the value of A is 1/3 and the value of B is minus 1. But you're going to have to write it out for the examiner. You're going to have to say A is 1/3 and B is not 1. B is minus 1. For those who got it wrong, you understand it now? Right. Let me write down this answer. I have a good feeling we'll need it for later on. Great. Oh, and this one is real easy now. For part 2, I now realize that I don't need to think too much on part 2. You'll realize that this resembles y is equal to mx plus c. Remember, if the examiner is asking you to plot the graph of log 10x, he's really asking you to put this on the y-axis and put the x on the x-axis. So in other words, log x to the base 10 is y. So we have y is equal to mx plus c. How much is the gradient? Isn't the gradient the item touching x? So that means your gradient, I'm answering part 2 here, would be 1/3. Right, so if you got it wrong, make sure you understand it, take down all the working and communicate with me that you understand it and you're ready to move on. All right, so we're on to question 2, quadratic roots. I put some formulas to the lower right-hand side. Hope it helps. Now, you have to remember in these questions, right? You always have to make sure the value touching x squared is always 1. Now, lucky for us in this question, the value touching x squared is 1, so no problems there. But I'm just saying if, let's just say it was 2x squared minus 4x plus 6, if, and it's equal to 0. Well, what we would have to do first, before we started the question, we would have to divide every one by 2, even the 0 on the other side first, okay? And then we would be able to proceed with the question from that point. But lucky for us, I think the examiner this year was being easy on us. So let's try to work this question out. Not too sure what's going on here. 1 second, guys. Right, so let's move on. All right, so we have x squared minus 4x plus 6. And of course, it's equal to 0. So according to this, alpha plus beta is equal to minus b on a. Whoever is touching the x, provided that the number touching x squared on 1, that will be what? B on a. And whoever is touching, whoever has no x attached to it is C on E. Now you have to be careful. Look at the formula. Alpha plus beta does always give you negative B on A, and that is trick a lot of students. In other words, whenever you see a negative sign in front of an expression, that means you will get the opposite of it. In other words, alpha plus beta today will give me positive 4 because of the minus sign over here. And alpha multiplied by beta gives us C on A. This one does not become the opposite. So alpha multiplied by beta is positive 6. No changes there. And here's a formula you need to learn off by heart, right? Alpha squared plus beta squared is always equal to alpha plus beta in bracket squared minus 2 alpha beta. All we have to do is substitute in the values. Alpha plus beta, don't we have that value? That is equal to 4, and we have to square it according to the formula. Minus 2, alpha multiplied by beta is 6. 4 squared is 16, 2 by 6 is 12, so they end up with 16 minus 12. So the answer today is 4. Congratulations on those who got 4. 16 minus 12 is 4. I have a good feeling some people got tricked with this minus sign in front here. That is why they got the wrong answer. Let me know if you spot your mistake. And of course, let me know when you're ready to move on. All right, so here's another question. I'm going to give you the hint for this one time. You see, anytime you have an inequality sign, like a less than or a more than, for example, let me give you, if I had 3x is equal to 2, equal to, let's say, 4. Obviously, 4 is the same thing as 4 and 1. Whenever you have an equal sign and you have fractions on both sides, it's perfectly okay to cross multiply, right? So you can say 3x by 1 is 3x, 4 by 2 is 8. Well, we're accustomed doing that in regular boring maths. But whenever you have an inequality sign, like 3x on 2, and I have a less than, and I have 5 on 1, please do not ever cross multiply whenever you have an inequality sign. Here's what you need to do. If you need to get rid of a denominator, multiply both sides by that denominator. Take my advice. That way, You will always get the question correct. You see, if you multiply both sides by the denominator, the 2 and the 2 will cancel out here, right? And 5 by 2 is 10. So when you do it like that, you will end up with no denominators, thereby making the question easier to do, well, from that point on. All right, so that's my hints to help you out with this particular question. Advice. When we're multiplying to get rid of the denominator in an inequalities question, sorry about this, right? The actual thing that you need to do, you need to multiply both sides by the square of the denominator, right? So if you have 2x on 3 is less than 4, and you want to get rid of the 3, don't multiply by the 3 on both sides alone. The better thing to do is to multiply by the square of it. The reason is, are you all familiar that with an inequality, if you multiply by a negative number, you will have to switch around the inequality? How much of you all remember that from Form 3 maths? That if you have an inequality and you multiply by a negative number, you have to square it, right? Now, sometimes, right? Let me just make sure I explain this properly. I know some of you will have questions. If I have 4 on x is less than 5 on 1, and I multiply both sides by regular boring x, remember, we don't know what x is. We don't know if x is a positive number or a negative number. So how would we know whether to switch around the inequality or not? There's no way to tell because we don't know what x is. But if I multiply both sides by x squared, isn't something squared always positive? So that way, I will never have to switch around the inequality because I know when I square something, I'm always going to get a positive value, right? So that is why they multiply both sides by the square of the denominator. I hope that makes some sense. Right. So based on what I said, we should multiply both sides by 3x plus 1 squared. Multiply both sides by that, 3x plus 1 squared. Now, luckily for this side, anything multiplied by 0 is 0. If here we have 3x plus 1, this will cancel out with one of the 3x plus 1s on top because the top one is squared. So on top, we're going to end up with what? 3x plus 1 multiplied by 2x minus 5 is more than 0. All we have to do is put each bracket equal to 0, one at a time. This is like a different way of solving a quadratic. Don't get me wrong. We can multiply out the brackets, get the quadratic expression, use the quadratic formula to solve the quadratic, and then try to figure out which piece of the graph is above the x-axis. But why go through all of that? The expression is already factorized for us. So we just have to say 3x plus 1 is more than 0. We will solve that equation just now. And then you say 2x minus 5 is more than 0. And of course, we'll solve this equation. When we solve the pink equation, we're going to get minus 1/3, draw across positive 1 divided by 3. And for the blue expression, you're going to get x is more than 5 on 2 or 2.5. All right, so I don't think this one was too difficult given the hints. And just take a 20 seconds and we will move on from there. So this one here, it's going to boil down to either AP or a GP. Try to figure out whether it's an AP or a GP first. This here is an AP because each month it's increasing by how much? Each month it's increasing by X dollars. So let's just replace X with a value. Let's call it $5, right? So instead of X, let's just say $5. So if the first payment was, let's say, $7, what would the next payment be? Well, 7 plus 5, which is 13. What would the next payment after? It will increase by 5, so it will be 18. And if we keep doing this, we're going to get 23. You all notice this is an AP because if you take the number after and minus the number before, we're always getting what? 5. That is what an AP is. When you take the number after and minus the number before, we keep on getting the same exact value. So it's definitely an AP, which means you're going to have to focus on the AP formulas, right? The AP formulas are things like Tn is equal to A plus, right? And then have the sum formula, 2A plus. Right, so these are the formulas I think you're going to have to concentrate on in order to get out the question. Right, so I hope that helps. Good luck. So in case you didn't know, the common difference here is going to be X, okay? So in the formula, wherever you see the D, you're going to put X in its place. Also, they said in the 5th month, the person paid $50. So what you can do is make an equation out of that. For the first one, we can replace the N with what? 5. And the 5th term is $50. Now, we don't know the value of A. And of course, we don't know the value of D, which is going to be represented by X. Then they came and told us on the 9th month, the amount paid was how much? $70. So that means when you replace N with 9, the total, the amount paid on that month was $70. So what we can do is create another equation, and we're going to get a pair of simultaneous equations, right? And we're going to solve for A, and we will solve for X, which is representing the common difference. So let's go ahead quickly and, of course, make the two simultaneous equations. Right, so we get two different colors here. I'll use red. For the first one, let me write back the formula top here. Tn is equal to A plus N minus 1, and the common difference is being represented by the letter X. So the first equation, it was $50 is equal to A. We do not know the value of A. If we replace the N with 5, because it's the 5th month, 5 minus 4, sorry, 5 minus 1 is 4. So we're going to get 4x. And for the next equation, $70, we put A here. It's the 9th month. So 9 minus 1 is 8. So we're going to get 8x. All we have to do is solve those things simultaneously, and we will get what? A and X. Right? So for those who did not know how to proceed, quickly solve the simultaneous equation. What I did was choose equation 1, and I made A the subject. So I'm going to solve this using the substitution method. This here is my equation 3. I'm going to go to equation 2 and replace A with 50 minus 4x. So you're going to get 70 is equal, look the letter A here, throw him away and replace him with 50 minus 4x plus 8x. All right. Throw all the x's on one side, everyone else on the other side. Let's see. You'll get minus 50. Minus 4x plus 8x is positive 4x. So 4x is equal to 20. X is equal to 5. Right, so the common difference, we know it's 5. Now we still have to find A, but that's going to be super easy. Because we just learned that A was 5. 4 by 5 is what? 20. 50 minus 20 is 30. So A is 30. How much people got that? I see some people sent it on the chat, like the values of A and the value of X, where X is representing the common difference. Now we want to find how much the person paid at the end of the 24th month. In total, they want to know how much money they paid in total. So that's a sum question. Sn is equal to n on 2, 2a plus n minus 1 multiplied by d, but we know d is being represented with the letter x. N is obviously 24, so we're going to put 24 on 2. 2 where A is. A is how much again? 30 plus n is 24, so 24 minus 1 is 23, and the common difference is 5. You just need to take your time, work this out, and I think the answer is supposed to be 2100, but let me confirm that, right? Yep, I'm getting 2100. But don't take my answer. You make sure and physically see it on your end. All right, so this one is the equation of a circle, right? I've given you all the formulas to the lower right-hand side of the screen. Remember how I explained it in class? I had used something called Xavi and yoke. Xavi and yoke, you can find them in this equation. Now, there's some hints, right? Whenever they give you the equation of a circle, you have to make sure one side is equal to 0, right? So make sure the equation is equal to 0. So ensure the equation is equal to 0. But what I'm really trying to tell you is that 87 is on the wrong side. So you need to throw him over first to get negative 87. Also, once you do that, Xavi, right, is the person who is touching X. So who is touching X here? Minus 4. So Xavi is minus 4. And yoke is the person touching Y, not Y squared, regular boring Y. So the yoke is 6, right? And of course, C will be the negative 87, because you have to throw him across first to make one side equal to 0. Good luck. Let's get started. All right, so let's get the center of that circle first of all, right? All circles must have a center. So let me draw a little circle here. Let's get the center coordinates. First of all, let's draw across this positive 87 to get minus 87, right? I just do another quick fix there, all right? So I'll change it to minus 87. So like I said, to get a center, we have to take Xavi. Xavi is the number touching the X. So that's minus 4. And the yoke is the number touching, well, the Y. So what's the center? The center would be minus 4 divided by minus 2. And the other one would be 6 divided by minus 2. This would give us positive 2 and negative 3. So that's our center. And what we're trying to do, we're trying to prove that this center is on this line, x plus y plus 1. Now, how do you prove a point is on a particular line? All you have to do is substitute in the x and y values. And if one side of the equal sign gives you the same answer on the other side of the equal sign, then that's your proof. So let's replace the x with 2. So let me write back the equation. X plus y plus 1 is equal to 0. Replace the x with 2. replace the y with -3 plus 1, and let's hope when we work this out, we get 0, because the other side of the equal sign is 0. 2 plus -3 is -1 plus 1, and yes, that does give us 0. So that center point does exist on the line, right? So I suspect quite a few people knew how to get the center. They just didn't know how to prove it was on the line. And now you know. So take a 20 seconds and we will move on. All right, so let's continue with the question. Once again, before you move on, you should probably make sure the 87 is on this side and everyone else is on the other side, right? You have to do that. And you all just learned that the center of the circle was how much again? I put C for center. The center was 2 minus 3. I think that's going to help you with this question. Give you a little hint here. Oh. The angle between a radius and a tangent, right? The tangent will be the straight line outside the circle. The angle between a radius and a tangent is always 90 degrees. Now, I don't know if you all remember this from maths. If you have two lines at right angles, let's say you have the line AB and the line CD, and they make a 90 degrees with each other. If the gradient of AB is 2/3, I'm just saying if, the gradient of a perpendicular line would be the negative reciprocal of the other line. In other words, you flip the gradient and change the sign. So the gradient of CD would be flip 2 on 3, you'll get 3 on 2. And if it's positive, you make it what? Negative. Flip and change the signs. That should help you with this particular question. Good luck. I just want to get a better drawing before I started here, right? Remember you had the circle over here. Oh, that's a terrible circle. Right. The center of the circle was how much again? It was 2 minus 3. And there was this point on the circle they gave you, point A, which was minus 6, 3. So what I would suggest is you all find the gradient of the radius first using, the regular boring maths formula. y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. You could call the center x1 and the y coordinate y1 and the point on the circumference, so you call that x2 and y2. So you just substitute it into the formula. You're going to get 3 minus 3, because the formula has a minus sign and y1 has a negative sign, okay? x2 is minus 6 minus 2. So on top, you're going to get 3 plus 3, which is 6, minus 6 minus 2, that's minus 8, better known as minus 3/4. How much of you all got the gradient to be minus 3/4? But that's for the radius only. Right. But we don't want the gradient of the radius. We want the gradient of the tangent. Now, like I mentioned before, we know what to do here, right? The gradient of the tangent, we have to take the negative 3/4, flip it, so you'll get 4 on 3. And how it's negative, it will change to positive. Well, obviously, you don't need to put the positive sign because it's understood. So this is what we know about the tangent so far. We know the tangent is a straight line. So the equation of a straight line is y is equal to mx plus c. We just found out the gradient of that tangent was 4 on 3. We just need to find its y-intercept. Now, to find the y-intercept, we need a point on the tangent. Which point are we going to choose? The 2 minus 3 or the 6 or the minus 6, 3? Which one are we going to choose in order to find the value of c, our y-intercept? Right, and I'm glad some people chose the correct point because I realized some people chose the wrong point. There are 2 points in front of us, obviously. You might think it's okay to choose any one of them, but the correct one to choose is the minus 6, 3 because that is the one that's on the tangent. The point has to be on the line that's being considered. So what you all need to do now is replace the y with positive 3 and replace the x with negative 6 and solve for c. Right, so do that quickly and send your answer for c. All right, so let's replace this. You probably do it over here. So you have 3 is equal to 4 on 3, right? Replace the x with minus 6 plus c. 3 into 3 is 1, 3 into 6 is 2. So you're going to get 3 is equal to 4 by minus 2 is minus 8 plus c. Obviously, if you solve for c here, throw across the minus 8 to get positive 8, running out of space. C is 11, and that is what I'm seeing on the chat there. Now, remember to ask you for the equation of the straight line, right? So you have to write your final answer like this. You can't leave the answer for M upstairs and you leave your answer for C downstairs. You have to write it like this. Y is equal to 4 on 3x plus 11. This here is the equation of the tangent. All right, so hope you all have that correct there. All right, so this one here is a vectors question. Believe it or not, the vectors is almost the same exact thing as the vectors in regular boring maths, okay? There's only one formula that's different. That's to find the angle in between two vectors. But I believe you all had the vectors videos for homework last term. So it should be easy. This one I'm not even asking you to find the angle in between two vectors. So by all means, this is a normal maths question. Let's get a diagram going at least, okay? To get out this question. We don't know exactly how, I mean, it's not necessary to have a very accurate diagram, to be honest, in vectors. You just have to draw one line. We will call that one line O, A. Make sure you have the direction from O to A. The other line, you could call it just what? O to B. All right, as simple as that. And they said that AP is half of OA. So that means if you're journeying from O to A, right? AP is half that distance, but after A. Right, let me draw it a little bit better. I draw it a little too far here. Let me draw it a little better. Let's say OA is over here, right? Tell me if this makes sense. A to P, that's half the distance from O to A. To put that in perspective, if from O to A was 10 centimeters, that means AP is half of OA. So AP would be 5 centimeters, but in the same direction that OA was going. Everybody with me so far? Right? And remember, in vectors, you must have your arrows. Okay, it's very, very important that you have your arrows. So what they're asking us to do now, right, is to write BP in terms of A and B. So let's put in some letters. From O to A is common A, and A to P, tell me if this makes sense, would be half A, because A to P is half of the value from O to A. They even told you that. Look, it's up here. AP is half of OA, and the value of OA is common A. So it's just a mere substitution that we put in to replace the OA. Who can tell me what's the whole value of the vector from O to P? If we were to walk from O to P, what would be the entire value from O to P? In terms of A, in terms of A. Right, 1.5 A or 3 on 2 A. Anyhow you want to write it, right? You can call it 1.5 A or 3 on 2 A. Any way you want to write it. So they're asking us in part 1 to find BP. So let's connect B to P with that green line. Notice I have the correct direction. How can we walk from B to P? To walk from B to P, we're going to walk from B to O and then O to P. And keep in mind the value of the vector OB in terms of B is common B. So I forgot to put in the B here, but now we see it on the screen. So let's write down the plan for the examiner. To walk from B to P, the plan is to walk from B to O and then from O to P. Keep in mind, when you walk against an arrow in vectors, the value becomes the opposite. So when I'm walking from O to B, the positive B changes to minus B. And when we're walking from O to P, we do not have to change the signs because we're going in the direction of the arrow. So OP is 1.5 A or 3 on 2 A. I chose to put the improper fraction. And that's the answer for part 1, you know. For part 2, they gave us values to substitute in. They want us to find the magnitude of BP. In case you all cannot remember the magnitude formula, to find the magnitude of a vector, the two straight line means magnitude. You have to take the I value and square it, and take the j value and square it, and then you square root your final answer. However, right now, we don't have any I and j values, but didn't they give us the value of common A and the value of common B? When they write it in vertical form like this, column form, the top values automatically I and the underneath values automatically j. So for part 2, to start off the question, right, what we need to do is replace the common B with the value they gave us, 3 on 2. Remember, the top value is always I, the underneath value is always J. And we're going to replace the letter A with how much? 2, 1. Take your time, multiply every one inside this brackets by 3 on 2, and then add it to what? Minus 3 minus 2, because this minus sign belongs to the 3 and it belongs to the 2 at the same point in time. So good luck. Simplify this expression. When you get your final I value and final j value, use the formula for magnitude. Let's see what we get. Run out of space underneath here, but we'll get in this bracket, we'll get minus 3 minus 2. Inside this bracket, 3 on 2 multiplied by 2 is 3, and 3 on 2 multiplied by 1 is 1.5 or 3 on 2. Let's add the two top values. Minus 3 plus 3 is 0. Minus 2 plus 1.5 is 0.5. That looking correct? That seems about correct. So the top value is I, the underneath value is J. So we're going to say 0 squared plus 0.5 squared. Add those two values and square root it. But when we work that out, I guarantee you, you'll get back 0.5 and you have to put the word units because we're finding magnitude. Magnitude means the length of the vector. And we don't know if it's centimeters or meters or kilometers. So we put the word units as a filler.